The material we're looking at today covers Russia's use of guided FAB glide bombs to, systematically dismantle Ukraine's military infrastructure ahead of winter. Let's get right into it. So, a key theme running through this material seems to be the revolutionary nature of this UMPK module.
It really is.
It's a compelling technical story. You take these old Soviet-era dumb bombs and you turn them into precision weapons.
And they can strike from, 50 to 70 kilometers away?
Exactly. Which crucially keeps the Russian aircraft well out of reach of any frontline air defenses. The analysis of the operational success, the sheer volume of these strikes, it's all highlighted incredibly well.
That effectiveness it's undeniable. And the tactical breakdown is solid. The UMPK's ability to deliver a massive legacy payload from a safe distance, that's a huge advantage.
For sure.
But I think we need to look past the technical achievement itself. We need to ask why. Why has this reliance become so total and so fast? I think the massive deployment of these cheap FAB glide bombs reveals a crucial underlying constraint in Russia's strategic stockpile.
That's an interesting pivot, because the current analysis is, rightly impressed by the volume. We're talking dozens deployed per day because they're cheap and they have them. Are you suggesting we should see this less as innovation and more as a strategic limitation?
Exactly. The weakness in just focusing on the success is that it risks celebrating this as a purely innovative leap. We don't sufficiently question the strategic necessity that's driving it.
Okay.
We might be overlooking the possibility that this is the main weapon not because it's the best option for every scenario, but because it might just be the only available option at the scale they need for this kind of attrition.
Wait a minute, though. Isn't that a bit speculative? Russia could simply be prioritizing the cheapest method for high-volume attacks against fixed, hardened targets. It could be optimization, not necessity. How can we really know it points to a constraint in their high-end precision stockpile?
That's the critical question, and it forces us to dig deeper. My suggestion is to analyze this reliance not just as a new tool, but as, concrete evidence of a calculated, resource-driven substitution. They're subbing these out for their high-value, long-range cruise missiles.
Like the Caliber or the KH-101?
Precisely. We should frame the whole glide bomb operation as a pragmatic response to, a potential inventory depletion of those more sophisticated munitions. It forces them to rely on these old, readily available Soviet FAB casings that are easy to retrofit.
So the argument is that they're trading precision, that surgical strike capability of a cruise missile, for raw destructive power and volume. And they're doing it because they just can't sustain the rate of fire with their high-end stuff anymore.
That's the heart of it, and to really bolster that argument, we need to explicitly show the contrast. The fact that FABs are, as the material notes, far cheaper than cruise missiles, which allows for dozens per day. You put that availability against the reported scarcity and, frankly, the infrequent use of those fancier missiles against tactical frontline targets, the shift in doctrine is pretty telling.
Okay, I see it.
And for concrete examples, just look at the specs. We can leverage the massive destructive power of the FAB 500, the 1500, and especially the FAB 2000. The material mentions the 2000 can level entire blocks. That's not a surgical strike, that's saturation. They're using raw explosive mass to make up for what they lack in long-range guided inventory. I wonder, though, if we've considered the possibility that this affordability is compensating for a depletion elsewhere in the high-value inventory. That's the real strategic story here.
That reframing definitely moves us from just observing a new tactic to analyzing strategic resource management under pressure. So, if we accept they're using these cheaper bombs because of that potential depletion, then the next question is, how does Ukraine even begin to fight back against this kind of volume? The material makes a strong case for the difficulty in intercepting these glide bombs.
Right.
The problem outlined is, it's multifaceted. They don't have an engine heat signature, their glide path is silent, the arcs are unpredictable, and even advanced systems like the Patriots really struggle to get a reliable lock on them.
The radar cross-section is tiny.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a really serious, maybe even an insurmountable technical problem for Kyiv's air defenses.
It is, without a doubt, a technical challenge.
But if we only focus on the physics of interception, we are missing the grander strategic play for Russia. We're getting distracted by the bomb itself. The true strategic success of the glide bombs lies not just in their destructive capacity, but in forcing a ruinous economic exchange rate for Kyiv.
The economic asymmetry. So the weakness in the analysis is focusing too narrowly on the physical challenge, the radar signature, the flight path, and ignoring the huge budget drain this whole strategy creates.
Absolutely. It's treating the problem as technical, when it's really logistical and budgetary. I mean, think about it. If Ukraine fires an extremely expensive interceptor, we're talking potentially several $1 million to shoot down a guided bomb that maybe costs $20,000 to outfit. Russia wins that exchange. It doesn't matter if the bomb hits or not.
It's a war of attrition where one side completely controls the unit cost.
Yes. So my suggestion is to shift the focus from the bomb's flight characteristics to the calculus of that cost exchange. We need to highlight how the extreme affordability and the sheer number of FABs are specifically designed to deplete Ukraine's very limited and very costly stock of high-end air defense interceptors.
The ones for NASAMS, Samton, or the Patriots?
Exactly. We're basically talking about a death by 1,000 cuts scenario. Russia is forcing Ukraine to spend its gold reserves, those Patriot interceptors, to save, I don't know, a silver-level asset like a local ammo depot.
And that clarifies the economic strategy perfectly. But how does that actually play out in Ukraine's operational choices?
It puts them in an impossible position. Ukraine is forced to choose. Do they use those incredibly expensive interceptors to protect static, hardened military targets, like that depot, or a forward command post? Or do they save them for the absolutely essential strategic protection of cities, of critical energy infrastructure, of civilian lives?
It's a terrible choice to have to make.
And the constant threat of these affordable, high-volume FABs ensures Russia wins that economic war of attrition in the air. It creates a resource drain designed specifically to compromise Ukraine's long-term defense. To make this point crystal clear, we have to contrast the affordability of the FABs with the high cost of a system like the Patriot. The economic ratio can be over 100 to 1.
100 to 1?
You cite the specific high-value targets that were eliminated, the Konstantinovka ammunition depot, a large supply hub feeding multiple Ukrainian brigades, or the Zhulapol strikes on hardened defenses. These are critical targets, no doubt. But the constant need to protect them or accept their loss is an economic drain orchestrated entirely by how cheap and plentiful the FABs are. Building on that point, what if we looked at it from the perspective of the cost exchange rate and how this relentless pressure changes Ukraine's strategic resource allocation? That's where the real insight is.
That framing completely changes how you see the air war. It's not just strikes, it's a resource attrition strategy playing out in real time. Which brings us to the third strength in the material, the targeting pattern itself. As I understand it from the notes, the argument here is that the pattern is unmistakable.
It's very clear.
And it links these strikes over a 6-day period, November 26th to December 1st, and shows them targeting key battlefield functions. The material details a systematic campaign hitting the eyes, so the UAV control, the ammunition, the depot, and the coordination structures, the command post.
And it does an excellent job identifying those individual targets and establishing that sequence. But I think we can elevate the strategic explanation for why they were hit simultaneously, in that exact order. Russia's systematic strikes against C2 and logistics represented advanced doctrine of battlefield paralysis, not just simple preparation for infantry movement.
C2, command and control. So the weakness here is that describing these complex, coordinated strikes as just softening the ground or eliminating eyes, you're saying that really minimizes the sophistication of the operation.
It dramatically understates the goal. The current analysis, it doesn't quite connect these geographically separate strikes into a single cohesive strategy of systemic breakdown. The goal isn't just blowing things up, it's the erasure of combat functionality across an entire sector. These targets are picked to create a synergistic failure.
Okay, so a domino effect.
Right. The suggestion is to frame the simultaneous hits on the UAV control center at Vilcha, the ammo depot at Konstantinovka, and the command post at Grechino as a deliberate attempt at battlefield decapitation, or targeted paralysis. The timing is the key.
It's designed to make sure that the Ukrainian units in that area are rendered deaf, blind, and starved of supply at the exact same time.
So synchronicity is the real weapon. It's not just that the pieces are gone, it's that they vanished almost simultaneously, denying the defenders any chance to adapt or compensate before what comes next.
Precisely. This synchronized failure maximizes the immediate operational breakdown. It makes any follow-up ground attack, like that anticipated push near Julipol, significantly easier. Why? Because the defenders can't coordinate a response. They can't reorganize their logistics, and they can't get current intelligence. The strategy goes way beyond simple attrition. It aims for a temporary, localized paralysis of the battlefield.
Right.
And we need to solidify this concept by tightly connecting the timeline of those hits. It's a narrative. On November 28th, the strike on the Vilche UAV control center creates a sudden blind spot. Then, the next day, November 29th, the detonation at the Konstantinovka depot erases thousands of rounds of ammo. And then on December 1st, the strike on the Grachino command post, the nerve center, instantly buries equipment and key personnel.
Eyes, ammo, brain.
Eyes, ammo, brain. In quick succession. Russia achieves something far more complex than just paving the way for infantry. It's a rapid operational paralysis. Is the connection between eliminating the eyes, the ammunition, and the brain fully established? Or is that an area to potentially bolster as the core strategic objective? Because that narrative makes this 6-day period way more significant than just another wave of attacks.
This has been a really deep dive. We've moved well beyond the technical side of the glide bombs to the deeper military and economic goals. The material submitted is excellent, and I think these insights will make it truly stand out.
Our core feedback, I think, rests on 3 key actionable ideas. First, examine that FAB reliance not just as an innovation, but as a potential signal of a constraint in their strategic missile inventory. It becomes a story of substitution.
Second, reframe the whole air defense struggle as an asymmetric economic battle. You have to highlight that catastrophic 100-to-1 cost exchange rate and the strategic dilemmas that creates for Ukraine.
And finally, bolster the argument that these coordinated strikes aren't just random. They represent a sophisticated doctrine of battlefield paralysis or decapitation. You emphasize the simultaneous removal of command, intelligence, and supply to achieve that systemic failure.
Excellent, actionable points. We invite you to integrate these deeper strategic interpretations and send the revised material back in for continued analysis. We're always here to help you challenge yourself and elevate your work.